I've reviewed him, I've tried out every imaginable comparison. Today, it's time for part 3 of my McFarlane Digital Silver Age Superman Deep Dive, Head Swaps. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. This is my biggest head swap video ever, so to keep things manageable, I'm going to break it down into sections. Starting things off are other Superman figures using this body. First up is Crisis on Infinite Earths. Don't get me wrong, I love the richer blue of the Silver Age version, but these colors and especially the logo just feel more Silver Age to me. If I was lining them all up, this would be Silver Age and the other one would be Bronze. Other way around, and this is also a good Earth 2 Crisis Superman, but I suggest there's a better one we're going to be looking at. Just for laughs though, and we've got to bring out Justice League Task Force. As soon as this guy came out, I told you not to go rushing to the hardware store to give him an acetone bath. I felt very confident that we'd be seeing this body again without all that deco. That said, I do want to take a look at the mullet head. With a complete repaint, there might be something there. Otherwise though, and maybe you could just do a hair transplant. For what might just be my favorite McFarlane Superman, and here's Max Fleischer. The Silver Age and Fleischer heads are actually very similar. Pulling back, and at a quick glance, you might not even notice I did a swap. The funny thing is that to my eye, this looks more Silver Age than the Silver Age Superman head. Alternately, I've made no bones about the fact that Action Comics #1 is my favorite head for this body, but this is a great head on a great Superman, and an all-around solid combo. Lastly for this set, and here we have Kingdom Come. As I referenced before, for all of your slightly older Superman needs, look no further than this. A little more wrinkled and a little more gray in the temples, but unmistakably Superman. And an Alex Ross Superman, so you can't go wrong there. Other way around, and this face sculpt is pretty youthful for Kingdom Come, but if it inspires any other ideas, I'm happy to help. Next up is a special section all about Action Comics 1000. This was McFarlane's first Superman all the way back to 2020. It might be a touch too small for this body, but with a little creativity, there's a lot to work with. Other way around, and this head's a bit big. Still, I do like it in combination with the darker blue. If you could find a way of making it a bit higher on the neck, that might do the trick. Recently, they reissued this figure as a Walmart exclusive with a cloth cape and a painted-on logo. Alas, the head sits even lower on this version.
Hi, I'm Superman. Nice to meet you.
My favorite use of Action Comics 1000, however, has got to be the Atomic Skull 2-pack. Of the three, the skin tones match the best here. Again, it also benefits from that much brighter color scheme, so if you prefer the proportions of Action Comics 1000, this is your best bet. While we're here, I did get a request for a leg swap. I'm not sure if you can tell on camera, but the blues don't entirely match, and this is the closest the legs can squeeze together, but if you're the one who requested it and you're watching, I hope it helps. For this next and arguably longest section, I want to look at the variations of the other major Superman body molds. First up is the beefy Dark Knight Returns. I've made no bones about the fact that this body is a bit too bulky and over-exaggerated for my tastes, but I know a lot of you like it, and with a little bit of repainting, the head is definitely an improvement. We might be jumping ahead a bit, but they did reuse this body for the Return of Superman. My opinion of this is the same as the regular Dark Knight Returns, which is to say it just feels a bit too bulky for Superman. It's the alternate mullet head I'm more interested in. This looks a lot better than the Justice League Task Force version, and might just be the best way to go. Around the same time as Dark Knight Returns, they came out with DC Rebirth, though strictly speaking, the body was first used for Superman the Infected. This is the same head as Action Comics 1000, just with a different paint job, so I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time here. Instead, I'm more interested in this. I land on the Pro-Trunk side of the Superman costume debate, but for those of you who like him better without, this is an upgrade. They did eventually reissue Rebirth with a much better paint job. If you prefer the Rebirth look, I recommend this one. Other way around, and just no. Built off that same body, and here we have Hush. For those who like their Superman figure a bit more defined, this is a great combo. It also has the brighter colors of Silver Age, but would need a little bit of repainting to match the skin tones. Other way around, and I've actually been thinking about doing this as classic Bizarro. Between the disheveled hair and the more angular features, I think I could make it work. Try to imagine this with bone white skin and let me know what you think in the comments. One of my favorite Hush repaints has got to be Action Comics #1. This is one of my favorite Superman heads, and it doesn't disappoint here as well. I love the Jose Luis Garcia Lopez head that comes on this body, but I can already tell you that this is a close second. On the flip side, this is fine, though it mainly just makes me want a new Action Comics #1 on the Crisis body. After the Infected Buck, the next time we'd get a new Superman body would be Page Punchers. I'm not really all that crazy about this, and this just plain looks ridiculous. For our purposes, I am much more interested in DC Classic. Not surprisingly, and once again, this head is a bit too big for this body, and of course it sits too low, and there's the small matter of the large hands. That said, part of me really likes this. I know it's too small for this body, but the skin tones match, and that disarming smile just feels like Superman. Moving on, and now we're going to take a look at a couple of movie versions. Kicking off this section is the Doomsday 2-pack version of Henry Cavill. Like I say every time I do a Henry Cavill head swap, I really do like this. It makes me wonder what it could have been like if Henry was able to wear just a simple, plain Superman costume like Christopher Reeve, knowing that he had the physical prowess to pull it off. Other way around, and this is a cool option for those who might like a comic-style Superman, but a bit more detailed. It's darker and more serious than what we're used to from the Man of Tomorrow, but still a fun little what if. While we're here, I thought it would be fun to take a look at the black costume. This actually looks even cooler than I expected, but with a little touching up, this is a pretty fun option. Of course, standing in a league all his own, and here we have the incomparable Christopher Reeve. Not just the head, but like others, I've also swapped out the trunks. It's a small touch, but the thicker belt loops really do look better, and with a bit of repainting, this would look fantastic. I know Reeve wasn't this bulky in real life, but it still looks really good. That said, with a bit of strategic rearranging, I think I have cracked the code. The arms, legs, head, and trunks of Christopher Reeve with the torso of Silver Age. This gives us the broader, more defined upper half, and the colors are a perfect match. With a little paint and a new logo, this might just be the best of both worlds. While we're here, I did get a question as to whether or not you can use the Christopher Reeve hands on this body, and short answer is you can, but the wrists don't match. As long as you don't mind the fact that they're blue, you can swap out the wrist balls, but then Superman's hands won't match his face. For our next section, we're going to be trying out some villains or villainous versions of the Man of Steel. First up is the Russian-raised Red Sun Superman. There's a real cognitive dissonance with this one. A stoic, angry face with a bright, colorful costume. But if this gets your creative juices percolating, I'm happy to help. Other way around, and this is the Action Comics 1000 body, and therefore has its limitations. That said, I think the head looks better here than it did on Action Comics 1000, and feels closer to me than the comic book version of Red Sun. Next up is Bizarro. There is a new classic Bizarro figure that just went up for pre-order, but that one's on the Action Comics 1000 body instead of this one, so if you were contemplating a custom, here's one way to go about it. For another Bizarro, and here's the one from the Bat-Zorro 2-pack. Obviously it all comes down to personal preference. If you're going for a more cartoony Bizarro, I think this works. Otherwise, it might just be a bit too silly. For one that I never did get around to reviewing, and here we have Injustice 2. This looks so much more like Superman than the head that came with it. I also can't help but wonder if the panels and textures were part of the inspiration for the James Gunn costume. The nice thing is that the neck is covered, so you don't have to worry about repainting any skin tones. In a similar vein, and here's Justice Lord Superman from the Batman Beyond 2-pack. For a darker, more sinister Superman, this head is hard to beat. It's quickly becoming one of my favorites for head swaps, and the skin tones actually match really well. Other way around, and this is obviously younger and less sinister, but it is a bit more Superman-y, so I dig it. And rounding out our trinity of super dictators, Ultraman. Naturally, the skin tones don't match. Nevertheless, this is still a fun, angry head. Personally, though, I'm more interested in this configuration. The head does sit a little bit low, but to my eye, this just looks more like Superman. Lastly for this section, and here we have the modern Cyborg Superman. If, like me, you have the very real concern that you're never going to see the official Cyborg Superman on account of it being a red platinum, allow me to help. I recently got this custom from a creator up in Canada, idea, and I think it provides a pretty solid blueprint. This head is unique, so we don't have that to work with, but if you're willing to substitute the Cyborg Superman head that we do have, swap out the right arm of Rebirth Cyborg, and his left calf and foot, you'll have the beginnings of a pretty great custom of your very own. For our final section, I want to close with just a few random thises and that's. First up is the solar suit from Superman and Lois Lane. We don't know yet if we're ever going to be getting a proper Return of Superman black costume version, and certainly this would take a little bit of work to get us there, but honestly it's not a bad start. Other way around, and if you were wondering what a bearded Superman would look like, here you go. I think this would take a bit more than glasses to hide who he is. Just for my own personal curiosity, and here's a kit bash I've been working on, this figure combines the Ultraman 2-pack version of Rebirth Superman with the trunks from the comic book Doomsday 2-pack. I also raised the diaphragm a bit to give him a bit more height. This is good for those who want a Superman in a medium blue with more muscular definition. With a cloth goods cape and a bit of paint, this could really be something. Next up, and for something non-McFarlane, here we have NECA. The pegs aren't compatible, so you will need to use sticky tack or something like that, but overall I've got to say I am really impressed. For one more non-McFarlane, and here's the Mezco 112 Collective. Oftentimes Mezco heads are perfect for DC Multiverse. Sadly, these heads are a bit too small and sit a bit too high. Lastly, and for our final head swap, the Question, standing in for Clark Kent. Completing the look are these glasses I found on eBay. The argument could be made that this head seems a bit big for this body, but it's a great classic Clark Kent look. Now, some of you might recall from part 1 that I ordered water slide decals. That's so I could swap out Superman's logo for one that doesn't have a black outline. This is kind of a tedious process, and I really want to take you step by step. As such, that's going to have to wait for its own designated video, but don't worry, I also ordered a little something extra to sweeten the deal. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and in the meantime, check out parts 1 and 2 of this series right here. Until next time, play nice and have fun.